Hello there, my name is Hido and welcome to the Pantheon, where we've delved into Kaldheim, and this is the first in a two-part look at Esika, God of the Tree. She's a 3-mana 1/4 god with vigilance, and tap, add 1 mana of any colour. Other legendary creatures you control have vigilance and tap, add 1 mana of any colour. So in this video I'm really going to be focusing on Esika, God of the Tree, not the other half, the Prismatic Bridge, which is a Wooburg legendary enchantment that reads, at the beginning of the upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card into the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So why am I really focusing on Esika? Well, I just think that she's really cool, you know. And if you're going to be building around Esika, you want to be casting her and then 7 mana for the Prismatic Bridge when she dies. Is that good? And if you're taking advantage of all of the, you know, mana dork sort of creatures or legendary creatures, your hits off the bridge aren't going to be that good. So that's really what I want to look at today. If you like these videos, please do consider subscribing. I'm going to be making one of these for every single legendary creature, or even like Esika, make 2 of them for the creature. So it's going to be a long road, but we'll get there in the end. Which brings me on to number 5. And at number 5 for Esika, we've got lands. And this is something I really want to talk about with 5-colored decks. There's a really big sort of push in general for uniformity. You know, oh, I've got all 10 of the fetch lands, all 10 of the shock lands, all 10 of blah, 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 blah. And yes, that is aesthetically very pleasing, but is it the best for the deck? So we're building around Esika, and she's a double green commander that we want to be casting on turn 3. So why would we have just as much a chance to draw a red-white land as we would to draw a green source? You know what I mean? Like, we want to cast that green source. And Esika specifically is mana fixing. So Command Tower obviously going to go into the deck because it taps for absolutely anything. But what I do is really have the mana base be based around green. Have all of our shock lands be green based, so that way we can fetch them up with like Farseek or things like that. Because we want to hit green. Yes, we want to get to the other colours, but our commander and being able to play our commander early gets us access to other colours. So even if you're on a budget, I'd run Golgari Rot Farm, which, you know, enters the battlefield tapped, and it enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and it taps for a red, green, and a black. Having access to that green is the most important thing about that deck. Of course, you know, cards like City of Brass, they tap for 1 mana of any colour. Absolutely fantastic, work exceptionally well in this deck. And, well, any deck really. But if you have all of your shock lands be green-based, we can play things like Farseek, which is green-based. You know, we're going to need green to be able to cast our ramp, so have it be green-based, and then this can fetch up any other colour. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card, put it into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. And worst comes to the worst, we want to get another green mana source. Well, we search up our breeding pool or something like that, which is an island forest. Having access to that green early is really important to the deck. So Kadama's Reach, again, a green-based spell, so we want that green early. You should really concentrate on having as much green early as you can. Which brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, I've had the Cursed. 5 mana for a 3/3, and because of our commander's ability to give all legendary creatures, you know, tap for 1 mana of any colour, and also vigilance, having things like this that buff all of our legendary creatures is really powerful and really important. Death Touch, Lifelink, other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. A mini overrun built into a lovely Vampire Knight, so we can get in for a ton of damage. And because our commander gives all of our legendaries vigilance, something like Kulvari, God of Kinship, which is a 4-mana 2/4, and has a tap ability, works excellently in the deck. As long as you control 3 or more legendary creatures, Kulvari gets +4/+2 and has vigilance. And you can pay 2 and tap it. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a legendary creature card from among them, put it into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, a random order. So this can dig through your deck. It's ramp, you know, it's a 4-mana mana dot, which is not the best. But the fact is you can attack in with it when it's a 6/6 and gives itself vigilance, but even when it's a 2/4, and then use its ability or tap it for mana post-combat. The other side of this card is the Ringheart Crest. 2 mana for a legendary artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. God only knows what you'd pick, honestly. But the main thing is you can tap it for a greed, spend this mana to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or a legendary creature spell. So, yes, it isn't colour fixing, but it's a nice bit of ramp that we could use early. Let's say play this turn 2, if we don't have another land in hand, we'll be able to cast our commander. Finally, Hero's Podium, 5 mana for a legendary artifact. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other legendary creature you control. That's going to be pretty good considering the amount of legendaries we're going to play. And then you can pay X and tap it, look at the top X cards of your library, remove a legendary creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Very similar to Kulvara here. Absolutely digs through the deck, gets you to the cards that you want. And we're all about those legendaries, you know what I mean? Which brings me on to number 3. And speaking of legendaries, Hope of Jaipur is a card that I'd be willing to put into this deck. 1 colorless generic mana for a legendary Thopter. It's a 1/1 with flying. And you can sacrifice it until your next turn. Target player who has dealt combat damage by Hope of Jaipur this turn can't cast non-creature spells. So that's pretty good. You know, a nice bit of, stop doing that. I don't like what you're doing. Please stop. But the main reason I want to put this in the deck is with our commander on the field. This is a Vigilance Birds of Paradise that has some attack. Absolutely wonderful. And this section is all about cards or small creatures that we want to get out early, play our commander, and then it just accelerates us with the tap ability. Kinnan, Bond of Prodigy, is a great version of this. A green and a blue for a legendary human druid 2/2. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. So, considering all of our, cheap legendaries are going to be producing mana, this doubles them. It even doubles himself. So say you play this on turn 2, then play our commander. Well, Kinnan then taps for 2 straight away, and maybe you can cast another one of these legendary creatures, like Cheville, Bane of Monsters. A green and a black. See, I was talking earlier about being green-based. Look at all these cards. They're all green-based. Your mana should reflect that. Green-black for a Death Touch 1/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponents control no permanents with bounty counters on them, put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Whenever an opponent controls with bounty counter on it dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card. So a nice bit of incidental sort of life gain and card draw, and a Death Touch 1/3. Not the most embarrassing thing in the world. It is a bit embarrassing though. Imara's Solia card is a great card with this commander. Green and a white for a 2/2. When it becomes tapped, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So we're going to give this Vigilance and the ability to tap itself, so we can just keep making an army just for making mana. Really, really nice. If only that token was legendary. But here's a mana dork that's legendary herself. Rada, Heir of Keld, green and a red for a legendary elf warrior. When it attacks, you may add double red to your mana pool. So if you have anything that can spend mana into speed, you can use that double red before it empties. And then you can tap it, add a green to your mana pool. Similarly, a nice little interesting mana dork is Magda, Brazen Outlaw. Red and a generic for a Dwarf Berserker. Other dwarves you control get from slow. I don't think we're playing many dwarves, but this works quite well. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, creates a treasure token. So, similar to the Kinnan, when we tap this itself for mana, it's going to create a token that gives us a treasure. So we're going to have double mana from this card. And then, eventually, if you sacrifice 5 treasures, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, put that card into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. I don't really see us getting there, but we could do eventually. Finally, Kethis the Hidden Hand is a really cool, cheap legendary. It's a white, a black, and a green for a 3/4. Legendary spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So that in set itself is a bit of ramp. It reduces the cost of all of our more expensive legendaries. But you can also exile 2 legendary cards from your graveyard. So end of turn, each legendary card in your graveyard gains. You may play this card from your graveyard. So a really nice reanimation spell that also, because he's a legendary creature, our commander allows him to tap for mana. Which brings me on to number 2. And at number 2, we've got Captain Sisay. I had a deck based around this, and by God, it was miserable and just the same rubbish every single time. White and a green for a 2 and 2 for a 2/2. Tap, search your library for a legend or legendary card, reveal that card, put into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So these are all effects that can just search up anything in our library, and it's absolutely fantastic. As a commander, Sisay is pretty miserable to play against, but in a deck like this, I think it's totally fine, you know. We're going to be playing a bunch of dumb legendaries, and this one just searches up our silver bullets. It's very similar to Sisay Witherlight Captain. Now that is a miserable commander to play against. Literally is just the same thing over and over again. I built it and it was poor. I didn't enjoy it. 3 mana for a 2/2. It gets +1/+1 for each colour among other legendary permanents you control. Then you can pay a white, a blue, a black, a red, and a green. Search your library for a legendary permanent card with convert mana cost less than Sisay's power. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So at the best, she's going to be a 7/7, so you can get a 6 CMC legendary permanent. Now, that does also include lands. You can get a legendary land if you so desire. So if she's a measly 2/2, you can still go and fetch up Hope of Jaipur, because that's 1 CMC, or go and get a legendary land. So into that, Thalia's Lancer is a great card for the deck. 5 mana for a 4/4 with first strike. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Excellent. Maybe if we have some kind of flicker shenanigans, we can keep doing that over and over again. Finally, Time of Need, 2 mana for a sorcery. Search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Gets us your silver bullet cards, and it's just, you know, good, clean deck building. Which brings me on to number 1. And number 1, we've got Eerie Ultimatum. A white, a white, a black, a black, a black, a green, for a sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, we are going to be extending a lot with creatures, and creatures have a terrible tendency of dying. So, we want to bring them all back, and Eerie Ultimatum is a fantastic card for that. And the fact that it's permanent means if we're playing Planeswalkers or anything like that, it also gets all of them. And fetch lands, if you want to run one of each fetch land, so it's all non-symmetrical. Anyway, Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is a card very similar to that. 7 mana for a legendary sorcery, which means you can only cast it if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it just brings absolutely everything back, and bing bang bosh, thank you, you're dead. Safi Eriksdotter, along the sort of reanimation sub-theme, is a green and a white, so she's an excellent card to get out on turn 2, because when we play our commander, we can tap her for mana, because she is a legendary. Can sacrifice her. When target creature is put to your graveyard from play this turn, return that card to play. So this is a great bit of protection for our commander, or if we have a massive legendary creature that, you know, gets killed, this can save it. Pretty good. Then we've got Buried Alive to fill our graveyard with those little goodies. 3 mana for a sorcery, search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. So this is a great card to play early. Then late game, we can just reanimate all of our Shieldrids and all that sort of goblins flying into the deck. Absolutely great. Entomb, very similar card. 1 black for an instant, search your library for a card. Put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. This is a very silver bullety card. If we have just a specific reanimation spell, we can get this and just get a very, you know, perfect card for the, you know, maybe an Elshnorn against the sort of token deck. No. Living Death, 5 mana for a sorcery. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control. Then puts all cards that are exiled this way onto the battlefield. So you just flip your graveyard onto the battlefield and your battlefield into your graveyard. So if your opponents are overextended, this is a great board wipe and we can rebuy all of our massive legendary creatures. Finally, Loyal Retainers, 3 mana for a 1/1. Sacrifice it, return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your turn before attackers are declared. Really, really awesome card. I love the artwork. You know, he's going to get you, me and my brother. I don't know why he's a 1/1 when there's 2 of them. Anyway, he's going to get legendaries back onto the field. Lovely bit of reanimation. And those are my top 5 cards for this half of Esika. She's really, really cool. She ramps you. She does everything you want to do. Play mainly forests. You'll have a great time. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this. And I'll see you soon. Bye.